Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to a great day of learning. We are your teachers today. I'm Miss Alissa.
And I'm Miss Regenna. We are so glad to be with you today for tons of fun, reading, and knowledge.
We have great learning goals for today. We're going to begin learning about how to take care of our earth. We will learn all about the reasons for the seasons. Our focus standards today are RI 2.2, RI 2.3, and RI 2.7.
That's right. As I remember, a cycle is a sequence of events that repeats again and again. Daytime and nighttime happens over and over again. So they are events that repeat again and again in a cycle. In fact, daytime and nighttime makes up one of the most important cycles in nature. Daytime and nighttime give living things just the right amount of time to be active and time to rest. Remember, it takes 24 hours or one whole day and one whole night for Earth to rotate once on its axis. Daytime happens when the part of Earth you live on faces the sun. Nighttime happens when the part of Earth you live on faces away from the sun.
Earth moves in two ways. The first way, rotation, causes daytime and nighttime. So when we rotate, it might look something like that. The second way the Earth moves is called revolution. The Earth moves or revolves in an almost circular path around the sun.
Earth makes one revolution or orbit around the sun about every 365 days or every year. We will learn more about a revolution in just a few moments. First, let's look at some other critical vocabulary words.
That sounds great. And it looks like our first word is equator. Scholars, when we say what word, that means it's your turn to say the word back to us. Let's try it out. The word is equator. What's the word? Yes, equator. So the equator is an imaginary line that divides Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres. Here is our motion for equator. We think of it as just kind of cutting it in half. So an imaginary line that divides Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres is the equator. The Galapagos Islands are on the equator near Ecuador.
The next word is hemisphere. What's the word? Yes, hemisphere. Now, let's practice our hand motion for hemisphere. Hemisphere is half of Earth as divided north and south by the equator, or east and west divided by the prime meridian. I could say we live in the northern hemisphere because we are north of the equator.
So far, we've learned equator and hemisphere. Let's see what's next. Yes, revolves. What word? Yes, revolves. Revolves means to move in a circular path or orbit around an object. So we could do the hand motion like this. The Earth revolves around the sun.
What's our next word, Miss Alissa?
Our next word is tilt. What word? Yes, tilt. So tilt can look like this. You can tilt your head to one side or the other. So tilt means to slant or to place at an angle.
For example, my brother Jonah had to tilt the cookie jar to reach the crumbs at the bottom. What's the word, friends? There you go, tilt.
Now, just to make sure that you have all the words fresh in your mind, we will do the hand motions and you can tell us the correct word.
Perfect idea. Let's start with this one.
That's it. Hemisphere. Half of the Earth is divided into the north and south by the equator, or east and west divided by the prime meridian. Try this one.
Bingo! Tilt, to slant or place at an angle. How about this motion?
Good. That's the equator. That's an imaginary line that divides Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres. You're on a roll. Let's check our final vocabulary word.
Ah, yes, revolves. That means moves in a circular path or orbit around an object, just like how Earth revolves around the sun.
Excellent job. So now that you've got a good understanding of our vocabulary words, let's move into our read aloud. So let's grab our stools, Miss Regina.
Okay.
So as we read today, we want you to listen carefully to hear about the main topic of this read aloud, how the tilt of the Earth affects the amount of sunshine we receive as it orbits the sun. You're going to hear more about how the tilted Earth orbits the sun to cause the seasons. Here we go.
Right now, Earth is moving. Even though you cannot feel it, Earth is always moving in space in two ways. The first way the Earth moves is called rotation. Rotation is the movement of Earth around its axis. This controls the cycle of daytime and nighttime. The Earth takes 24 hours to turn or rotate once on its axis. The Earth rotates in a counterclockwise direction from daytime to nighttime and back to daytime again.
Scholars, counterclockwise means to move in the opposite direction from the hands on a clock. So for you all at home, that would look like this.
Exactly. During rotation, the part of Earth that is facing the sun changes. When it is daytime where you are, that means the part of the Earth on which you are standing is facing the sun. Sunlight hits our planet and moves across it from east to west. This is why we see the sun rising in the east and setting in the west.
So this way is east in our MPB classroom, and this way is west.
Sunset eventually occurs when certain parts of Earth turn or rotate away from the sun and nighttime begins. This cycle continues over and over again.
The second way that the Earth moves is called revolution. Earth revolves or orbits around the sun in an almost circular path. Therefore, as you live on Earth, you are traveling around the sun too. It takes Earth 365 and 1/4 days, or 1 year, to complete one revolution or orbit. You might be wondering about that 1/4 of a day. This 1/4 explains why we have a leap year every 4 years. During a leap year, we add on one additional day to the calendar to catch it up to Earth's orbit around the sun.
Let's make a quick comparison here. 4 quarters equals 1 whole, or 1 whole number. Just like 4 quarters equal $1.
That's a great connection, Miss Regina. Now, Earth is tilted as it orbits the sun. Remember, tilt or slant your head to one side. Good job. The Earth remains at this same angle and points in the same direction throughout its entire orbit. Now let's find out more about how Earth's tilt causes the seasonal cycle. So Earth is divided into hemispheres or halves. Just like this orange can be cut in half, either through the center, from side to side, or from the top to the bottom. Earth can also be divided two different ways. Our planet is divided in half into the northern and southern hemispheres by an imaginary line on its surface called the equator. The equator is the same distance from the North Pole as it is from the South Pole. The United States, where we live, is located in the northern hemisphere.
Earth can also be divided into two halves called the eastern and western hemisphere. These hemispheres are divided by the prime meridian, an imaginary line used to split Earth into eastern and western halves.
So when the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun during Earth's revolution around the sun, it receives more intense light from the sun at a more direct angle. During this time, it is summer in the northern hemisphere. Around June 21st each year, the sun reaches its highest point overhead in the northern hemisphere. This is called the summer solstice and is referred to as the longest day of the year. That means that there is daylight for a longer period of time on that day than on any other day of the year. People in the southern hemisphere are experiencing winter, while people in the northern hemisphere are experiencing summer.
Scholars, here's something to keep in mind. North and south are opposites, just like summer and winter are opposites.
That's true. So now on June 21st in the southern hemisphere, that part of Earth is tilted away from the sun, with the sun at a low angle in the sky. The sunlight is not as strong or as intense, and there is less of it. So that part of Earth receives less light and less energy than the northern hemisphere. June 21st is the winter solstice, or shortest day of the year in the southern hemisphere. It is the opposite of the northern hemisphere.
As Earth revolves around the sun, the seasons begin to change, depending on which hemisphere is tilted most directly towards the sun. This depends on where Earth is on its revolution, or orbit, around the sun. One revolution takes 1 year, and each hemisphere is tilted directly in the sun for part of the year. 6 months after the longest day in the northern hemisphere, the shortest day occurs. The winter solstice in the northern hemisphere is on December 21st. This is, of course, the longest day of the year, or summer solstice in the southern hemisphere. They are opposites.
When Earth is halfway between the two solstices, both hemispheres receive the same amount of sunlight. This means that the hours of daylight and of darkness are the same in each hemisphere. The days that are equal are called equinoxes. The spring equinox occurs at the beginning of spring on March 21st. The autumn equinox occurs at the beginning of autumn on September 21st.
The cycle of one complete orbit or revolution of Earth around the sun marks or measures 1 year. Living things respond to the changes in sunlight and warmth throughout the 4 seasons of the year. With increased sunlight and warmth during spring and summer, many living things tend to grow. Animals are born and plants grow. With decreased sunlight during autumn and winter, some plants are ready to be harvested, whereas others die. Some become dormant or become inactive. They stop growing and making new leaves for the winter and wait for the sunlight to return. You will see that most trees do this in the fall and winter. Some animals, to avoid the winter chill, hibernate or migrate. When animals migrate, they move to warmer climates.
Scholars, let's take a moment to think of 2 words that might describe each season. What about 2 words for winter? Spring, summer, fall. Good job. Not every part of the Earth experiences seasons, though. Different parts of Earth have different types of weather. This is partly because of the shape and tilt of our planet. This means that different parts of Earth receive different amounts of sunlight and warmth. The area around the equator receives the greatest amount of direct sunlight, so some of the warmest parts of Earth are located at that part of the planet. The North and South poles are at opposite ends of our planet, and they receive the least direct sunlight. In fact, although they are so far apart, they have the same kind of weather as each other. It's always cold, and the North and South poles in both places are usually covered with ice.
In the next lesson, you will learn more about the cycle involving the 4 seasons and how each season brings with it an ever-changing landscape. Which season is your favorite?
So, we've learned a lot of interesting information, Miss Regina.
Yes.
So, let's do a quick review. Let's look at our questions. What was the main topic of our read aloud? That's right. The main topic was how the tilt of the Earth orbiting the sun causes seasons.
Next, let's see, can we name the 4 seasons in order? Correct. The first one is spring. Next is summer. Then comes autumn, and last, winter. The seasons repeat again and again in the same order.
I can't remember. How long does it take Earth to orbit around the sun?
I remember it takes Earth 1 year to revolve around the sun. Now, I remember the equator divides the Earth into 2 hemispheres, but I can't remember what the 2 hemispheres are called.
The equator divides Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres.
Thanks. Now, scholars, what makes the first day of summer solstice so special? You guys are experts. It is the day with the greatest number of daylight hours.
Great. Let's look at our last question. What do the first day of spring and autumn have in common? That's right. They are both equinoxes, meaning there is an equal amount of daylight and darkness over the entire Earth. So, what a great review. I think there's a word that we wanted to review.
That's right. In our read aloud, you heard tilt. Tilt your head to one side. Say the word with me, tilt. Tilt means to move or slant or place at an angle. An example would be Andrea would have to tilt her water bucket so that every drop can spill out onto her plants.
Great. So, you might tilt your head when you are asking a question or when you are wondering something. You can also tilt other things too. You could tilt your hand down to protect your eyes from the sun.
You can also tilt your hand to describe an angle of something. I could say the board was tilted like this, so the marble rolled all the way down.
So, what's the word we've been discussing that means to slant or place at an angle? That's it, tilt.
Scholars, our time together is almost up. We want to end today with a little something special. We want to share a poem with you. The title of this poem is Bed in Summer by Robert Louis Stevenson. Listen carefully to find out how this poem relates to the tilt of the Earth and to what you have learned about the seasonal change.
So, Bed in Summer by Robert Louis Stevenson. In winter, I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer, quite the other way, I have to go to bed by day.
I have to go to bed and see the birds still hopping on the tree, or hear the grown-up people's feet still going past me in the street.
And does it not seem hard to you when all the sky is clear and blue, and I should like so much to play, to have to go to bed by day?
Wow. That poem really helps me visualize what is happening in the summer. This poem gives great imagery by describing how the tilt of the earth changes the amount of sunlight we get in each season. Do we get more sunlight in the summer or in the winter?
True. We get more sunlight in the summer. Does your family let you stay up later during the summer? Or do you have to go to bed during daylight hours like the poet did?
Interesting. This poem was written in the 1800s when people did not have electricity like we have today.
That's true. So when it became dark at night, which happened earlier in seasons other than summer, people could not do as many things with just the light of a candle. So they often just went to bed earlier.
How does the poet feel about going to bed in the summer?
You know, I don't think he liked it too much. He seemed to want to do more playing instead of going to bed, and I can understand that.
Have you ever gone to bed while it was still light outside? If yes, was it easy or hard to fall asleep?
Yes, those are some great points, scholars. It is harder to fall asleep when it's light outside. Our bodies tend to relax when we are trying to rest in the dark or when we are in places with dim lighting.
Well, this must be why my grandpa goes to sleep when we are at the movies.
That is true, Miss Regina. That dark theater must get him in the right position for a little nap.
I have had so much fun today, boys and girls. We hope you've enjoyed learning all seasons and the Earth's emotions. We look forward to seeing you again.
Yes, please join us again soon as we continue to explore all kinds of events in our world. Thanks for doing your best today, scholars, and be sure to share something you learned today with someone in your home. All rights and credits for today's lesson belong to Core Knowledge Language Arts. We would like to thank them for publicly sharing these valuable resources. The views and opinions expressed in this lesson are those of the Core Knowledge authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Mississippi Department of Education. Thank you for joining us today, boys and girls. We will see you next time.